Hello, everyone, and welcome to week two of the fall 2024 English 28110. Um, in this video, I want to do the following, so I will get into it quickly. I want to first talk about our work on week one, make some comments and answer some questions. And I want to go with you on the agenda and the weekly schedule, especially week two. And I want to discuss project two assignment sheet with you to kind of like uh, explain some components of it and also answer some questions that I used to have on this assignment sheet. I'll try to predict your questions, but I'll also look forward to seeing some of your questions in your discussion post of this week. Um, so, First, I hope everyone is doing well. We are in week two, and this semester is hectic for me. Um, so I'm juggling between some tasks. Also, I am using my laptop for recording this video versus like last week when I used the PC, the office computer. So I hope that the quality of the sound is better. So, to start out, what I wanted to say about week one, I was going through your posts for week one, especially about the two articles that you have read. One by Kayla Egan, Writing Pains, and the second one, um, it's called The Memorial of the Five Paragraph Essay. Um, as I was reading, I was very happy that most of you actually mentioned that they related to these articles in some sense, which is very important, I think, at the start of the semester. I wanted us to have that opportunity of discussing our feelings towards writing. There are many students who come to the writing class with all kinds of feelings and all kinds of um, I would say, um, misconceptions sometimes or understandings. Let's not judge those as misconceptions. But for example, like I was talking with some of my students in our face-to-face class, and there were many of them who did not see writing as part of their work in any way. Some of them are actually marketing measures and nurses and many other fields that are known for using a lot of written communication. But for them, that was not writing, and that was not uh, going to be relevant in our writing class. This is something that we are working on. Um, um, reflecting on and seeing why this separation is happening. And one of the things that I think I was thinking about as I was reading the Death of the Five Paragraph Essay or the Memorial of the Five Paragraph Essay article was that point of how the five paragraph essay, although it was useful in many situations in which to give us a pattern for organizing thoughts, having an introduction and a conclusion and three, um, um, you know, um, main ideas in an argument, for example. And I think it's a very uh, good short version of an essay of a research paper. So that was a very powerful component of that. The problem that sometimes I keep thinking about with this five paragraph essay is that how many times when it was taught to us, it was separate from reality and the world. Um, Very often, people write when there is a call for writing. You know, you write a text to communicate with a friend. You write a post, for example, when you are passionate about something, or you want to say something, or where something happens. Um, um, Most of writing happens, like again, like I remember I showed you this brochure last in the last video. Everything that is written here was written for a reason, and the design is made for a reason. There are situations that called for those writings. However, when you think about the five paragraph essay and the way it was introduced to many of us, there was that absence of the why, you know, and sometimes the why was just to get a grade. And this is not a very good why for doing an activity as complex as writing. So there is that accusation sometimes to the five paragraph essay that it has made that separation between our writing class and the writings that we do in the world to the extent that many students or student writers do not see or expect at least the writing class to have any relevance to the writing, the daily writing tasks that they do or that they imagine they will be doing when they become professionals or when they start working in their disciplines. So as I was reading your posts, and as I said, I answer some of them. I'm not sure if you get notifications, but I think there is a button to employ or deploy the like getting messages when somebody replies to you. Um, so I replied to some of them, and I read most of them actually. Um, as you are working on your literacy autobiography and the questions, because the questions in your first assignment, the mini literacy autobiography, also prompt you to think about your feelings and relationships with writing and language in general, your struggles, and this, I think, bridge very well with what we have been talking about as um, which actually Kayla Egan's raised in her article, excuse me, about the procrastination that happens when she is writing a paper. And yeah, there's a very good question that made me write something that I wanted also to share in this video, is that one of the things that uh, that's my take. Made me very anxious and stressed especially when I'm writing a research paper, is how um, in most of the times I was asked to write a research paper, I was never uh, given any information about the things that I need to do before writing a research paper, and that made me imagine as if I would just sit and write a research paper, you know. Although writing a research paper is the very last thing that you do after you do a lot of research. So you need to do research first, and then you will be able to write a research paper. Sometimes research papers are not uh, uh, um, given to us in this way. Um, so one of the things that that helped me at least, and I can see that many of you also asked that question, like, yes, Kayla Egan talked about procrastination, but she didn't provide solutions, and I think that this is a fair critique. However, I also still think there is value in mentioning something, and especially the things that are concerned with feelings, because they are problematic even in their art in the process of articulating them. But for me, the work that I have learned about what to do that gets you to the writing made helped me a lot in the procrastination, and the stress that a research paper can get me. Like now, I am literally convinced that I cannot write a research paper without data. If I will want to write a research paper, I will need to either, as some of you mentioned, get some sources relevant, read them, take notes from them. This will be my secondary data. And if I want to also employ primary data, so if I will interview someone, or if I will do a survey, all these will be the tasks that I will be doing first. And it's very interesting when you see that, uh, looking at your notes and looking at the data, the research paper becomes very easy to write, at least compared to how it used to be when I didn't have those elements present. So that's one strategy that I just wanted to say, is that respecting the process before writing helps a lot with with fighting procrastination. Um, because procrastination usually comes from anxiety, and anxiety comes from, at least for me, like not knowing from where to start and where to end. So that's my reflection. This is what I wanted to say, in addition to what I wrote to you in your discussion posts. Um, what else? Yeah, I wanted also to um, mention something about week two. Let me first take you to Moodle, because I think um, I wanna go with you into the schedule. So if we go to Moodle here, yes, I have started the assignment tab here. So whenever you have it ready, you can submit your first assignment that is due on Friday, and I will also add the next assignment that is due after that. And also I added week two discussion posts, and I will add three and four tonight. So you can, for those of you who want to work on those in advance, they have the space to work on it. Yeah. So if again, oh, I'm talking, and I'm kind of imagining as if I have the screen shared when actually it was not shared. So here is Moodle, here is the screen, and those are the posts that I was talking about here. And this is the assignment sheet, the assignment tab. So going back to the syllabus, so I can go with you to the schedule. Um, Let me scroll down. Yes, this is the tentative schedule that we have. Um, So we are in week two, and week two is characterized by us starting on thinking about project two assignment sheet and project two in general. I wanted to dedicate week one for reflections on our feelings towards writing. In week two and also in week three, we will be discussing information and sources of information, um, and how we make judgment based on information. So we have some sources. Let me first um, take you through the assignment sheet, because the assignment sheet and the sources actually are very connected together. And you will see from the nature of the project and then connected to the readings. So this project, I called it Myth versus Reality Infographic, and I think you are like there is a big likelihood that you are familiar with those kinds of infographics that we see sometimes on social media. I used to see them a lot during the time of COVID-19 because during that time there was a lot, all kinds of information and misinformation. And I even think the CDC used to make those kinds of posts and put them on their social media. So let me first read the introduction word by word because I think it's important to for me even to read it and remind myself of what I wrote, and then I will explain the requirements of the project and then I will connect that to the readings. So I wrote here that fake news and misinformation and disinformation have become a danger to every aspect of our lives according to a new survey by Pew Research Center. Most Americans suspect that made-up news is having an impact. About 2 in 3 U.S. adults, like 64%, say fabricated news stories cause a great deal of confusion about the basic facts of current issues and events. This is not just about news and not only about the US, it's actually about all sources of information all over the world. We live in an age that is full of information and misinformation and disinformation. Therefore, in this project, we start by having an informed discussion about sources' credibility, bias, and evaluating information. Then you will create a myth versus reality infographic about a topic of your choosing, and you will need to do considerable amount of research into the topic before you make your infographic. So, as you can see from the introduction, this project heavily focuses on the theme of information, misinformation, disinformation, and evaluating sources of information for credibility and bias. Um, and I think there is no better time for this project, actually. The reason I wanted to make this project early in the semester is that I know that in November, uh, you guys will be voting and casting a vote always um, calls for information and judgment. And I thought that it's very important for us to have that discussion about what what sources of information, or not the sources themselves, but what criteria do you have for evaluating sources of information for credibility? And one important thing that I want to say in this is that I don't have the answer. Like, I cannot claim that I have the criteria for sources' credibility. Um, However, I think raising the question and having the discussion among us, we can think critically about what makes credible information and the strategies we use to at least spot bias and information and disinformation, and even sometimes resist it. Like, I think one of the features or one of the reasons we have this myth versus reality infographic is to kind of push back against tides of misinformation and disinformation. Um, so the project is, um, I would say, twofold. 2 weeks of the project, we will be discussing the theme of information and disinformation. So this will be, I would say, content research. We will be focusing on what makes information and disinformation and misinformation, and we will be discussing criterias or criteria for evaluating information. Then after that, we will move into the writing of an infographic. We will have a a discussion that will actually take 2 weeks of what is an infographic, and this will lead us to discuss some complex terms like genre and genre analysis. And we will also think about how to make an infographic that is representative of the complexity of um distributing and disseminating information. Like, will we just try to find how to write an infographic on the web, or what process do we use for analyzing a piece of writing and making it as effective as it can be? So there are four components to this project. The first one is a proposal. The second one is the first draft, then the final draft, and then the uptake letter. And between the first draft and the final draft, there will be a peer review process. So, description of the components. The first one is a proposal. Um, you will make a fairly detailed proposal for your project. Uh, your proposal, this is a presentation, I'm sorry, your proposal, not presentation, should answer the following questions. What myth are you debunking in your infographic? What is your evidence that this is a myth? What reality are you advocating for in the infographic? And what is your evidence that this is the reality? And what are your sources of information, and how did you evaluate their credibility? So, in your proposal, you will be choosing and a topic that you will write your infographic on, but you will need to justify your sources of information. So when you say that this is a myth, what are your sources that, and not just what are your sources, but advocate also of their credibility. Um, and this will give us an idea, or give me specifically an idea of what you want to do. But it will also be an opportunity for you to sketch out what you want to do and to do the research that is needed for that infographic in terms of content only. But in your proposal, you will not talk about, for example, like the conventions of the infographic, because we will do that later in the project. In your proposal, I want you to focus on um, your ideas and your sources of information. I wrote some guidelines for the proposal that it must answer all the above mentioned questions, the 5 questions that I have here. It must be written in essay format. And by essay format, I mean short paragraphs. Like, do not write it as a one chunk paragraph that, like, I had this before from many of my students, not many, actually few of them, was that like sometimes 1 or 2 pages paragraph that's not readable. So make sure to write smaller paragraphs, and you must include a citation page with the proper citation of sources that you mentioned in your work. Then the first draft, it should be 80% of your work. That's of the infographic itself. Um, and the more you write, the more feedback you can get from your peer in the peer review process. So um, um, you are encouraged to make it as complete as possible. Then the final draft, and then the uptake document. And I think the uptake document is I would say, the most important document that I use for evaluating your work, because as you will see in this project, um, there is no single criteria for writing an effective infographic, or for doing research on a topic that you will be choosing. Everyone has their own um, ways of doing research, and the infographic is different in many places in the world according to um, a lot of conventions. So I do not have the authority to say this is the way you will write your own infographic. It must be your own research. So the uptake document actually, it is your opportunity to tell me what you did. And from that documentation and reflection on your work and on your research in the project, I will have the authority to make judgment on your work and give you some evaluation. So let me read this description of the uptake document. So I wrote in your uptake document, you document and reflect on your learning process. Remember, it's not only reflection, but documentation too. So, as you are working on this project, it can be a good idea to keep a notebook or a document in which you make notes about your learning and the decisions you make throughout the project. You can even document your feelings as well. These notes will serve very well in your writing of the uptake document. You need to write or to answer the following questions in the uptake document. How was your learning process in the project? What are some of important decisions you made in your work on the infographic? What project components and activities helped you the most in your work? What were your struggles in this project? And were you able to overcome some of these struggles? How can your learning from this project be used in other in your other writing situations? And I think this is also a very crucial element of every project that you will do here in this class is that there is no 100% guarantee that you will write an infographic when you go to work or beyond even this class. However, what 100% you will find are some of the skills that you will gain in writing this infographic and doing the research. And this is what you need to do in the uptake documents is to think about, okay, what did you learn from this writing situation that you can take to other writing situations in the future. So going back to the schedule now, because I want to show you how this connects with the readings. First, we have two sources that talk about logical fallacies and how these fallacies are sometimes used to, I would say, misrepresent information. We also watch a movie, 12 Angry Men. I think this is a very um, um, good movie for this discussion. I'm not sure if you have already watched it. Like when I was viewing it in my in face-to-face class, I found like one or two students who already knew it, the others didn't. Although this movie is rated among the first, I think, the top five movies ever made in the history of cinema. So it's a very highly rated movie. I think you will enjoy watching it. And then there is one article called The Danger of Filter Bubbles and Digital Isolation, exploring the ethical research practices. Then you will write a discussion post and reply on those. And this is a reminder that you need to submit your literacy autobiography also this Friday. Um, Let me stop this first. So, as I mentioned, the readings and the assignment sheet, um, they inform one another. So, I hope that through this week, you will get the opportunity to um, learn more about the assignment sheet and this project. And if you have any questions, send me an email. Um, I am recording this video very late, so I'm a little bit exhausted. But yes, I will look forward to reading your discussion posts of week two. This topic of credibility of sources is actually a very dear one to me because I believe that I have been in many situations where I had to make decisions, and sometimes I was misinformed and disinformed. And I think I am not the only one in this. So I appreciate that in this class, we are able to bring this important topic into consideration. And I will look forward to seeing your experience with misinformation and disinformation and any strategies that we can think about for evaluating information in light of the sources that, because I think uh, as you are watching the movie and reading the articles, um, they are eye-opening in some strategies that people use to evaluate sources. And I will look forward to seeing that. So, until that, have a great rest of your week. Bye.